Curtis Silwa is with us. How are your headphones?
Oh,
good?
Super duper.
Curtis Silwa is with us. Going to take a picture in a minute. We're Facebook Live. And,
what about me? You don't introduce me?
I'm getting to you. Curtis Ellis is here also.
Hey, well, you're
Curtis
confusing because when you get two Curtises in a room, that is very unusual.
Curtis
very
Ellis.
unusual.
Plus, we're going to be
the Curtis and Curtis show.
The great Curtis Silwa.
Oh, my hero.
Curtis, we've had you on the air on the phone many times. Great to see you here live in person. You're looking great.
Yeah, well, it's been a rough weekend here as I've been in the middle of the mob. And just amazed at how history repeats itself. We don't seem to learn from past times when there's been insurrection in the streets. Highly organized. The police are a dollar short a day late. Our elected officials locally, Cuomo and de Blasio, not ready for prime time on this. And the radicals and the anarchists, they know. They plan for this. They work it out. And then at 10 o'clock at night, it's like the witching hour. Nobody turns to pumpkins. Mm-hmm. But the homeboys locally know, hey, it's time to get paid. And so they come down and they start looting, and the cars roll up, and they're throwing it into the trunk of the cars, and off to Brooklyn and the Bronx they go. And this is a scene that we saw straight out of Fairfax in L.A., Rodeo Drive, Melrose, where in one moment the LAPD, they have demonstrators sort of cordoned off, and two
right.
The homies are there getting paid. This is all about looting. It's all about getting what's yours.
The protests become a diversion tactic. Keep all the police over there with the peaceful people. Okay, now we know we can go grab, smash, and grab.
Why did they go to Soho last night? Because that was the path of least resistance.
No, designer stuff. I mean, Gucci. I mean, this is, hey, come on. What do you think? You going to a dollar store?
This is New York. We figured it out.
West Philly, they were hitting the dollar stores, and I'm like, that is so low budget. See, in New York, you got to have a pedigree. So if you're a looter, you got to go for the big stuff. And quite frankly, I was in Soho all day. I was warning landlords who were out there. Tell them, you better get that plywood. You better get it up quick like it's New Year's Eve in Times Square. That's what they do for all the stores. Because there's going to be too many people here. And
but it didn't matter. They put the plywood up and they got bashed in anyway.
Yes and no. There was still a lot of stores.
What if people were there with firearms protecting their stores? What would have happened?
They would have ran the thugs. Remember, all it would have taken is one AK-47, a few shots in the air, and boom! Everyone in the streets knows. That's the code of the streets. You take what's mine, and somebody might try to take your life for it. So this whole argument about the president saying, if there's looting, there's going to be shooting. Man, every time you had a national emergency, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, right away people put on the plywood of their own homes, black or white, depending on the area. If you loot, we shoot. Big, bold letters, because you have to alert those that are coming in for the wrong reasons that there may be a price to pay. And I got to tell you, we saw that in the Rodney King riots. I was there personally, saw some Koreans who pulled out their AK-47s. Their businesses weren't touched. Mm-hmm. Those Koreans that were passive, thought this was kumbaya, peace, love, and happiness. To this day, they don't have a business in the streets of L.A. Yeah, no, it's all about that. And the one business that's going to be booming after all this? Gun sales, ammunition sales, because Americans, no matter who they are, black, white, in between, rich, poor, or middle class, they're going to say, I got to protect mine because the police can't protect me or won't protect me.
We were saying before, there just aren't enough police, actually. And it's not like I'm saying hire more police. If you have chaos and nobody feels there are consequences for this action, everybody's calling the police. The police can't be everywhere.
Yeah, and also, Curtis, let's add the other factor. You have had young men with high levels of testosterone chained to their radiators for 10 weeks.
Right.
They can't play basketball. They can't go for a swim. They can't hang out in the playground. They can't chase skirts. They can't drink. They can't go to a bar. They can't go to a club. Yo, let's go to the club. So what are you going to do? Where are you going to go to find the girls? At the demonstration.
Right.
Because that's where all the girls are. And then when the witching hour hits at 10, time to get paid. So if you want to join the looters, you can. Everybody else, they ended up going home. But there's a professional cadre out there who knows how to lead these young men in the direction of double trouble. And in New York City and some of these other cities where there are no bail provisions, with all these hundreds of arrests, they're back out on the street in hours with what we call disappearance tickets, desk appearance tickets, because they disappear right back into the streets.
I'd forgotten about that. The no bail law, another genius innovation of the
LA?
of Cuomo and de
New York,
Blasio.
Chicago, Philly. Look at all these cities that elected radical district attorneys who wanted no bail, did not want to keep people remanded in jail. And so, yeah, it looks like, wow, the cops are making a lot of arrests. And
releasing them.
But,
it's catch and release.
That's right. The DA say not prosecuting, not prosecuting. Right. And, in fact, if you notice here in New York, when they tried to Molotov cocktail the cops in their SUVs, they are marked police vans, the feds had to step in. The attorney general had to say, we're not leaving it to the local district attorneys because you'll probably release them on no bail. So the feds had to come in and actually charge them. And in the second case of the Molotov cocktails, these are two young men, Harvard, Princeton educated lawyers.
Yes, I saw that.
So this is like the Weather Underground all over again. If
That's
you went
right.
through the 60s.
You were saying that earlier, Curtis Ellis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, these were the sons and daughters of the wealthy, of the privileged, very liberal, very progressive, and they decided to take it a few steps further than Students for a Democratic Society.
Right.
They decided, hey, hell to this, we're joining with the Black Liberation Army. We're declaring war on America.
That's right. We're bringing the war home.
Exactly.
Yeah, the peace and love people with the daffodils where we want to end the war in Vietnam. Weather Underground comes around, we're going to bring the war home. We're for the war. We're on the other side. We're for the Viet Cong, and we're going to be the Viet Cong in America.
And remember, the Weather Underground and the Black Liberation Army, that were allies in the war against America, knew, forget the Gucci, forget design. Let's go for Brinks trucks. Let's go where all the money is. And naturally, they did. And most of them ended up in jail. Most of them ended up in jail. And to this day, 40, 50 years later, you have conversations with them, some of them doing federal time. And they'll say, oh, no. We were down for the cause. And you say,
they still believe
what
it.
a schmuck. What a potch. You did 50 years for what?
Well, Bill Ayers, he got out.
Yes.
And he held a fundraiser for Barack Obama.
And was his mentor, as you know.
Yeah. They're unrepentant.
Nope.
Unrepentant. The only thing they feel bad about is they got caught.
Right. And also, they're looking at Antifa now and saying, if only we could have been as unorganized, we probably would have never ended up in jail because they had clear leadership.
Right.
You knew who were the leaders of Black Liberation Army and the Weather Underground. Now with Antifa, it's anonymous. It's just like all of a sudden when you get hit in cyberspace, anonymous, everyone's anonymous. So they've learned the art of urban guerrilla warfare. They come in, they pick the lock, but they don't go inside. They basically say, hey, free stuff.
Right, free stuff.
It's sort of like Bernie the Altacaca Sanders say, hey, come on in, free stuff, free education, free health care, free shoes, free sneakers, free everything. Notice Adidas, right, had to close all their stores all over the country. All over the country, because what do they hit first? Got to get me sneakers. Then the jewelry shops. Then, let's hit Walmart's. Yeah, let's hit Target because, Target's headquarters is Minneapolis, and that brings us back to where this all started. And you're saying to yourself, where the hell is the linkage in all of this? Because it's all about getting paid. This is looting.
I wouldn't be surprised if you've got some fences out there, some organized crime, say, okay, we'll take that off your hands. These people aren't looting to keep it for themselves necessarily. They're turning around and selling it to somebody in Brighton Beach or something.
That, and then you'll get it on Saturdays and Sundays at your local flea markets.
Right.
You say, hey,
that's the way it used to be in Tompkins Square Park, remember?
Right.
If you could have a flea market, because you can't have one now because we're...
the way it used to be...
What happened to social distancing, Curtis? What happened to that?
That went out the door.
Yeah, that's so yesterday. That's so 10 minutes ago.
The first demonstrations in New York City were by people who wanted to open up New York, Trump supporters. They all got locked up twice in front of City Hall.
Right.
Then some gays and lesbians got locked up when they were outside Mount Sinai Hospital. They didn't want Franklin Graham and his great work to stay in New York because he said they're homophobic. They got locked up too. And Dermot Shea, the police commissioner, and de Blasio said, we are not going to permit any demonstrations during the pandemic. Well, all of a sudden, under the edict of Cuomo and de Blasio, who forbade any forms of demonstration, a direct violation of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. What the hell did they do over the last few days and few nights?
What'd they do?
They were impotent. They were eunuchs. They had no chutzpah. They had no control of the city.
They did nothing.
They were saying, well, the ramifications of this could actually enhance a second tidal wave of coronavirus. And it's like, you really? That's all you guys have to say about this? You not realize that the city, which is already impaled financially, which is on the brink of going Chapter 11 because Washington can't keep printing money and subsidize New York, Cuomo's press conferences every day, and de Blasio. Now there's even going to be less resolve to stay here, improve, and not move. These businesses are going to say, we're out of here. You can't even protect us when there's a lockdown.
Right.
How are you going to protect us when you open up for business? Ever so slowly.
27-phase plan. We've got charts and graphs and photographs with circles and arrows on the back telling you how to run your business.
It's almost like we work for the Onion.
Yeah, right.
Today.
It's
I mean,
like
it's
we
really
live in the Onion.
It's like we just made all this up, and this is like a comedy show on the Comedy Hour. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. What a treat. We're live in New York City at beautiful Newsmax headquarters here. Curtis Ellis with us. You know, Curtis, long-standing guest on the John Fredericks Show. Also is a senior policy advisor with America First Policies. Curtis Silwa is with us. Well, you know him. Very well known from Guardian Angels. Also a candidate for mayor in New York City. We're going to talk about Curtis Silwa. Back with you. You're running for mayor. If there was ever a time we needed a change, it's now. How do you get de Blasio out?
Well, term limits did that. I'm a big proponent of term limits. Thank God we have one remedy. We don't have recall. We could, if we had recall like some states do, when he went on that Don Quixote-style venture for 4 months to become the Democratic candidate for the presidency of the United States and got absolutely jackedly squat 0 votes, we could have had a recall effort here. And believe it or not, even de Blasio supporters would have signed the recall. And then we would have had an election for a new mayor, you know, going back to Schwarzenegger, remember, Gray Davis, the rolling brownouts, the blackouts that caused 60 candidates to replace him, and Schwarzenegger went out. We need recall here desperately because the next one we need to have recall for is Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, King Cuomo II, the son of Mario Faccia Brutta Cuomo, King Cuomo I, every day. I mean, we must be masochists to listen to this guy every day.
Oh, my gosh.
He just muses. You know, it's like his father was called Hamlet on the Hudson. Yeah. This guy is trying to inherit the role. We learn all about meatballs, spaghetti, macaroni.
Sunday dinner.
Right. Hey, my meatball brother, you know, hey, Fredo out there, what's going on? Oh, I'm dying of coronavirus. It's like enough of this nonsense. And then when it comes to the really serious stuff, rioting and looting, nothing to say. Nothing to say. Like, gee, maybe we should have the cops give them masks before they throw the Molotov cocktails at them. That's his whole shtick. But
I mean, de Blasio's up in 2021, right? So
he's gone. We should send him back as an adjunct professor at Harvard and Cambridge, where he was hatched and birthed, because he's a carpetbagger. He knows nothing about New York City.
He's genetically engineered at the Kennedy School of Government.
Can you beat him in 2021?
Well, his clone. And there are a number of Democrats, right, who have already raised significant money because they're working the suites.
So they're going to beat him in a primary?
No. You see, I'm running as a Republican. Right now, no Republican has stepped up.
You're going to be Giuliani, too.
Could be.
You're going to step in and clean this city up.
Yeah, but you know what what the Republicans are going to do. Like every other political party, right? They're going to look for a big whale. They want money. They're looking for moolah shmoolah shekels.
They're going to run
John might run. John will be a good candidate because he's street smart. You know, he came from the streets, born in Harlem.
So is Casamidi thinking about it?
I think a lot of people are.
He just bought WABC.
Yeah, he's my boss. He's my boss here. But if he wants to run, that's great. But I'm running from the streets. See, Republicans don't run from the streets. They don't go into the projects. They don't go into tenements. They discount.
You're going to run from the streets.
The streets and blacks and Hispanics. You cannot win without. Now think of just New York City, a progressive liberal enclave. You had the greatest white migration in the history of America. All these white boys and girls from Iowa, where there are more pigs than people, Idaho, where there are more potatoes than people, flooded into New York City. And they bring with them this progressive, liberal thought process, so hopelessly naive. You know, they're there cheering the looters until all of a sudden they get held up. They get, they get a gun to their head. Then all of a sudden they'll be sleeping on mommy and daddy's couch back in Iowa and Idaho, and then the city will really be hurt. But Republicans don't go after blacks and Hispanics in the inner city. And the Democrats, they already count on them. So imagine. You don't have gays, lesbians. You don't have blacks. You don't have Hispanics. You don't have hipsters and millennials. Who do you have left? They've all left for Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, Arizona. They're out of here. So the original Republican base that elected Giuliani, who gave this city a badly needed colonic in 1992, and for the 8 years he was mayor, they're gone. They're no longer here. You have to approach them. You got to battle the Democrats for every vote. And Republicans are too afraid to do that. There are neighborhoods they can't even find on a map. Me, I don't need a subway map to get around in the city of New York. My baptism in birth by fire was in the subways of New York City.
What's going on in the subways here?
Oh, the subways, right? We are spending millions every night to decontaminate and cleanse the subways.
Good luck.
The first thing we do is we get all the homeless people and emotionally disturbed, of which there are many, and we end up feeding and caring for these people because the city certainly isn't, the state certainly
By we, you mean the guardian angels.
The guardian angel, oh yeah. And emotionally disturbed people, you have to have skill levels. I mean, some of them are violent to themselves, violent to others. They shouldn't be on the streets. They're in need of psychiatric care and their meds. So they take them all off the trains at 1 o'clock in the morning. They decontaminate, they deep clean, and then at 5 o'clock, okay, subway's up, back and running. And where do you think all the homeless and emotionally disturbed people go? Back into the subways for the rest of the day. So it's like, why are you spending millions of dollars and not dealing with the problem to begin with? It's like whack-a-mole. You know, every time you whack the mole, it pops its head up somewhere else. And de Blasio and Cuomo, they're hopeless. They have no idea how to handle this problem. What you do is you got to help the homeless because some of them come with some real serious baggage, and a lot of them are not from the city. When all of a sudden you start, where are you from? I'm from Puerto Rico. What were you doing here? I was looking for work. Where are you from? I'm from Virginia. I'm from South Carolina. They're coming up here looking for work. A lot of them don't find the work, and especially now with the pandemic, you know, that single-room occupancy hotel or that little hovel they were living in and paying like a weekly rent, they're out in the streets. So where are you going to go? You're going to go to a shelter where there's coronavirus rampant and guys are hacking and coughing up and looking to mug you late at night while you're in your bunk? Or you take your chances on the subway. And especially now, it's air-conditioned, it's clean. The only thing you don't have, they haven't opened up the bathrooms. So where do you use the toilet? Right there in the subway, right there on the platform. These officials have no common sense. And so that's why I could be a better mayor just based on my street smarts experience and the common sense that I would apply to the job. And whoever is mayor, the next mayor, you're going to have to do more with less. Because Washington, D.C. is already printing up money that they don't have and giving out money as if they're Santa Claus with our tax dollars. Where they going to find, as we call it in the streets, this schiarol, this moolah shmoolah? It's going to devastate the United States. And everyone, hey, pay, no, don't worry. We'll give it to you. Hey, you want stimulus? Oh, we'll stimulate you. Unemployment, I tell you what, we'll give you $600 more in addition to your local state unemployment. You'll be making more while you're sitting chained to your now air conditioners. As you decide, I'm not going back to work. Why should I go back to work? I actually make more when I'm sheltered in at home than if I was working a 9-to-5 job. This is nuts.
Curtis,
you know the guy that I hate?
You live in New York. What do you think of all this?
Absolutely spot on. You got my vote.
And this Munchkin guy there, you know, every time I see him, he's like, oh, we're going to give money to everybody there. The Treasury Secretary. What's his name again?
Munchkin.
He's a Munchkin.
Bloomberg?
Secretary Munchkin.
Oh.
Munchkin.
I call him Munchkin Man. And he's always got that dumb smile on his face. Yeah, we're going to give money. Where are you getting this money from, pal? Is it your money? No, it's our children and children's children money. We are devastating their generation fiscally for years to come. We're not going to have to pay the price. They are.
John Fredericks Radio Network. Curtis Ellis, Curtis Silwa, live, New York at the Newsmax studios. back to Curtis and Curtis, like the Curtis and Curtis show. Curtis, you had a question. Curtis Ellis,
No
you had a
one-
question for Curtis Silwa.
No one knows more about police and policing than Curtis Silwa. So I've got to ask you, when you saw that video of this cop in Minneapolis, 8 minutes leaning on this guy's neck, and my feeling, that's murder. I mean, that's murder. And Giuliani was on TV the other day saying that's murder one. That's murder one. I don't understand murder three. But anyway, enough of my opinion. What do you think? What do you see when you saw that video? What's going on with the police?
Same thing that everybody else saw. A cop basically was so abusive towards this citizen of ours that he killed him right on the spot for the whole world to see. But then again, if you've been in Minneapolis, like I have, I've had guardian angels in the south side of Minneapolis. They are soft normally. They are so politically correct. I have seen guys land on the hoods of police cars, and the cops have to go off to another call. Sir, could you please get off the my car? I have to. F you! Sir, please. We really have to get. This is not a barbaric police department over the top. I've dealt with police departments that use extreme physical force. Minneapolis is not. This is like an exception to the rule. And then you see the actions of the mayor there. The mayor who lets the mob take over the precinct, never calls in the state police or the National Guard. And then the governor, who's like a fuddy-duddy guy there, is saying, oh, these are white supremacists, and oh, yeah, the cartel members. What the hell are you talking about, guy? Because you're dealing with your political strain as opposed to being street smart. None of them are street smart. They just don't understand. But you talk about a progressive, liberal, socialist city, that's Minneapolis, where they sing Kumbaya. And they are stunned by all of this. How did this happen? Well, when you let the hoodlums take over the demonstration, that's what's going to happen. Chaos, looting, rampaging. And notice the two places that haven't had this. What are the two major cities you would have, the over-under point spread would have said they would have been taken to the streets. They would have been looting round 2, 3, or 4. Nothing in Detroit because there's nothing left there.
Right.
And Baltimore, right? Baltimore, Freddie Gray. Have you seen anything in Baltimore? Washington, D.C., 40 minutes away. They're right outside the White House. But nothing in Baltimore because they realize what a mistake that was in 2015 to tell the cops to stand down. To this day, the cops are still standing down, and the thugs rule the streets. So there's nothing more to loot, nothing more to steal.
Nothing there.
Right.
It's all cleaned out.
And this is what is going to happen. Minneapolis is going to have this problem. L.A. is going to go through this again. You saw the open looting. West Philly, which already had enough problems with a DA there who just wants to release criminals to do it again and again. They're all going to suffer. And who is this hurting? Ain't hurting white people. Ain't hurting people living in the suburbs or the rural areas. It ain't hurting Trump supporters. It's hurting people who live in the neighborhoods in the inner city. Where they going to shop? Where they going to go? And quite frankly, if they have the wherewithal, they're going to leave. If not, they're going to put extra bars on the windows, extra locks on the door, and they're going to stay hunkered down. You talk about sheltering down from the pandemic. They're going to be sheltered inside because the thugs will rule the streets and the cops will be too intimidated to get involved. That's the legacy. We've learned this before. Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis. You would have thought St. Louis. Oh,
Right.
What happened? Michael Brown, remember? The fallout just a few miles away
From Ferguson.
Right, just a few miles away. There's been nothing in St. Louis because they realized nothing good came from that 2015. New York, because we didn't have riots and looting when Eric Gardner was killed. So you see, the understanding is people haven't experienced that here with this generation.
Right,
Previous
with this
generations, yes. But the new Jack generation, this is like Spike Lee, do the right thing. Yeah, power to the people. Fight the power. It's sort of like, hey, guy, that's a movie. Get real here. That's a movie.
So what happens, guys, if this goes to the suburbs?
It's not going to go to the suburbs because Americans in the suburbs, both black and white, have guns. They have ammunition. They're not going to put up with it. And by the way, they're not interested in the suburbs. That's not where they're going to get paid. They get paid in the city.
cities.
That's where you have.
Where they can loot.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, when you're in the suburbs of America, you're a little concerned that there are people there, especially a lot of cops who live in the suburbs,
right,
who are armed 24/7, 365, that they will shoot you there in the suburbs and rural areas.
So let me pose this question. So with Curtis Ellis and Curtis Silwa, I'm going to go to you, Curtis Ellis. America's an armed society. There's no question about it. And the fact that we're so armed and they can't take our guns away, which I don't think after this you're going to see any of that coming up again. And as I said earlier on the show, 17 million Americans have AR-15s. 72% of Americans have a firearm. That's a huge percentage. Is that a deterrent for people going in from these rioters coming into the suburbs?
No, absolutely. And you don't know when you're going to run into an off-duty cop. Plus, you've got lower density. It's the same as the virus. Cuomo said, oh, what happens in New York City today is going to be happening in your city tomorrow. No, not going to happen in Keokuk, Iowa, not going to happen in Kansas City, Johnson City, Kansas, because you have lower density. You loot, you have to get in your car, you have to drive for miles and miles and miles where you're going to run into all kinds of cops along the way. And you've got the armed people, the armed citizenry. It's not a conducive picture. Just like the low density is not conducive to the spread of virus, it's not conducive to the spread of looting and lawlessness because it's a more ordered situation. Here, as Curtis said, you've got everybody packed in together. You can get out of your car.
But Curtis, you've never been armed.
Never, and I've been shot.
You've never been armed. I mean, that's the one thing about the Guardian Angels. They're never armed. I always wondered about that. Especially now you're out there, people got guns, bats, they got chains. You're unarmed.
Oh, they've always have, because we've been through riots before.
But how do you protect yourself and your people and other people you're trying to protect without any arms?
Well, it's group mentality. You're not out there by yourself. There's 4, 6, 8 or more. We've trained together. We will get physical. This is not see something, say something. Call 911. Yeah, please. Give me a break.
See something, say
No. You want to see something? You're going to get a therapeutic back massage and be sucking concrete. We're firm but fair. We're not abusive. So, for instance,
I'll never see that term again now without thinking of you. See something, say something.
Yeah.
Every time I take an Amtrak train, that's the first thing I see. Yeah. See something, say something.
Yeah, say something. I'll tell you what we're going to say. Get the F out of here, right? You don't belong here because you're up to no good. We know who you are. We know why you're here. You better not be violating anybody's rights. You better not be violating property, or there's a price to pay. And you have to deal with people. There's only one language that thugs understand. Pain compliance. And they understand in the streets that, look, if you rolled up on them and you tried to steal their jewelry or car, and they all of a sudden got to jump on you, they would say, hey, that's the price you pay. You know, it's Darwinian. Number one, second to none, survival of the fittest, because that's what it is in the streets. And a lot of people, they don't seem to understand the rules of engagement. We do. They respect us because we've earned that over 41 years. Now, have there been guardian angels shot and killed in the line of duty? Yes. Seriously injured? Yes. But not as many as you would anticipate. And because we're interracial, you can't say, oh, we're just protecting one community and not another community. Men, women, young adults. We have a nice mix so that you don't feel like our agenda is to protect any one group of people versus another group. It's all about stopping crime and violating people's rights.
Yeah.
And you know the other thing, and Curtis, you're a veteran of this. Here are all these people calling these demonstrations each and every day that the police are descending upon. Where are the marshals? Where are the members of that particular gathering who have trained marshals to keep the peace within their ranks? That was always a prerequisite.
What do you mean by trained marshals?
These are men and women who specifically have gone through training to make sure that nobody gets out of hand.
You can't get a permit to have a peace rally in New York or a peace march against the Iraq War or whatever it is unless you say we've got this many hundreds or dozens or thousands of people trained to monitor the situation, to tell everybody this is the parade route, don't go onto the sidewalks, don't block the intersections, keep moving. And they would also throw in some legal advisors from legal aid. Legal Aid Society would be some of these people. So
where are they?
Exactly.
Well, remember, this is not organized by your traditional demonstrating groups.
Right.
If you notice, Al Slim Shady Sharpton of the National Action Hate Network went over and had a rally on Staten Island in honor of Eric Gardner. He didn't come in and deal with Brooklyn or Manhattan because that's a different generation. They're not going to listen to him. He understands. I got no juice with this crowd. These are anarchists.
Right.
These are rebels who want to destroy. This is their whole method of operation.
If you were mayor now, how would you stop this now?
Very simply. You want to go back and forth across the bridges, right? Like they've been parading back. Bridges are closed to you and they're closed to everybody else. We're going to isolate you to an area. This is where you can exercise your free speech. No doubt about it. You want to knock yourself out to the wee hours of the morning? Go ahead. But you're not leaving this area. What do they do in Times Square? All of a sudden, they bring out all of the police barricades. 1 million people or more come from all over the world to watch the ball drop. You can't leave the barricade. If you leave the barricade, you ain't getting back in. They know how to run an operation, but this mayor won't permit them to. This police commissioner is his lapdog. And Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo is too busy saying, hey, Chris Rock, hey, Rosie Perez, I need you to tell everyone in Brooklyn they should be wearing masks and socially distance. Get out of here. They have lost all sense of reality. And they're so full of themselves. They think because they have a press conference a day, I call it press conference de jour, the people are going to follow them because they've been barking at us like our moms and dads have for 10 weeks. Stay inside, socially distance, wear a mask or we'll have you arrested. Well, guess what? People have finally said, enough is enough. I'm not listening to you or anyone else. And that's why you see the havoc and the chaos that you see in the streets, especially late at night.
So you would call out what? National Guard cops. You would just put them in one area, say, here's your protest area. And then how would you protect the stores and the houses and the businesses?
Well, first off, we already know what a lockdown is. You lock down the city. You say, this is where you can have your demonstration. You assemble anywhere else, you don't have a permit, that's it. Going to lock you up. Got Rikers Island. 13,000 cells there that are empty now because these AOC, all-out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, socialist, Democrat, liberals, they hate the police. They hate ICE. They don't want police. They don't want anybody in prison. They don't want anyone remanded to jail without bail, no matter how serious the crime. You're going to let them run the city? Or you basically say, sorry, you're going to spend 3 days. We're going to lose your paperwork. For 3 days, you're going to have stale bologna sandwiches and unsweetened Kool-Aid. By the time they get out, that desire to go back into the streets and demonstrate, they're going to be $1 short and a day late to do that.
That's the way it used to be. You didn't want to get arrested on a Friday night because you knew you were going to be in until
70,
Monday morning.
The 72-hour rule.
Well, the courts weren't in session until Monday.
Yeah, but
So
remember, now you have an excuse. It's the pandemic. We can't get a judge. We can't get prosecutors.
Right.
Oh, wait a second. The video conferencing went down. The Zoom went down. There's so many excuses you can use. Nobody's going to be paying attention. Nobody. Look, I know every trick in the book because every time they've clipped me and they've arrested me, they suddenly lose my paperwork. They know how to put me deep into the bowels of the belly of the beast. And then it's like, feet don't fail me now. No time to go to sleep, Curtis, or these vultures and buzzards are going to tear me apart limb by limb.
John Fredericks, Curtis Ellis, Curtis Silwa. So, guys, tell me, going forward here, where does this lockdown, let's get away from the looters for a second and just go to these poor business owners in New York City, Curtis. When does this lockdown end? I mean, he has no date, nothing.
And not only that,
when can we go back to work?
When they slowly unleash your tourniquet around your neck and your three-piece set, because really you can't function as a human being, you're not going to be able to make any money. And if they continue to let these demonstrations get out of control, they're talking about having restaurants on the street.
Oh, good luck.
These would be like locusts through the cornfield. You can't. What businessman or woman is going to want to open up knowing on any given day or night the rabble can come storming through and not only harm your customers, which means you would be held liable. And, we got 9 lawyers for every one citizen here chasing ambulances, practicing the martial art, I sue. I mean, that's all they do. I sue. So the point being is you as a businessman or businesswoman, you're going to say it's not worth it. You know where I'm going? I'm going down where spring training used to take place down in Florida.
Yeah.
I'm heading to Port St. Lucie. I'm heading to Georgia. I'm heading to North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm taking my investments down to Texas. I'm going south in the Mason-Dixon line. And unfortunately, we're going to see flight like we've seen in times
I
past.
agree with that. I think what you just said, Curtis Silwa, is one of the most astute things. And Curtis, you can comment on this. I think Silwa is right on here. I think you're going to see a tremendous flight to the southern states, which is going to make them more red. It's going to make this more blue. The divide is going to continue on. You know, my wife said to me the other day, and we live in Virginia, and she said to me the other day, I can't wait till our son graduates. We can get the hell out of here and go back to Georgia.
Right.
Now, and you know, we came here, you know, we kind of like Virginia. We like the beach and all that. But it's like, we're done with it. And she can't wait to get out because, you know, she talks to her friends in Atlanta. They're going to the bar. They're open. Their businesses are open. We're locked down. We got whack jobs running the government. I think you're onto something. I think there's going to be a flight like you've never seen.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're right, too. And all of these midtown skyscrapers we see full of offices, they've realized half their people can work, or most of them can work from home. Why do I need to be paying this rent, this ridiculous rent and taxes?
I see, as a budding entrepreneur, although I've never made shekels or moolah shmoolah, boy, what great storage facilities these tall buildings are going to be. You know a city is in trouble when all of a sudden factories, manufacturing outlets became storage bins.
Right.
We're going to have a hell of a lot of storage here. For the clutterers, people who like to clutter and don't want to throw it out or recycle it, you're going to have plenty of places to park your clutter for a monthly fee.
Well, the other thing is I came, I'm staying right up a couple blocks away, and they don't have valet service. So I'm like, wow, can I park my car? And the person gave me 2 locations, and she said, there's nobody there. You can go in there. They'll be happy to have your business. There's nobody here.
Right.
So even when you get down to the parking garages, right, the hotels, I mean, it goes on and on.
Well,
and on.
think of it. Normally, people would take the subways, but people are too afraid to take the subways now, so more people are going to be taking their cars. So the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, the AOCs, all out crazy with their green plan. They're going to see more people in cars, vans, trucks, more fossil fuel being burned. Mm-hmm. So everything that these demonstrators, you know, supposedly have as an agenda, they're going to realize that agenda is going to be $1 short and a day late because everybody is going to be in the mode of survival. Right. That's really what it's going to be about. How could the city
ever come back? Like, if we wanted to, at 12 o'clock, if we wanted to go and eat today, you can't eat, right? Everything is closed. Well, you have to go curbside. When is the city going to come back? You have a half a minute.
Oh, when Bill de Blasio, our father, allows us to, or as I say to Cuomo and de Blasio, who's your daddy? We're your daddy. We're the taxpayers. We should demand these things and just open up. Go ahead. You can't even lock up the demonstrators. You're going to lock up all the mom and pop
there you go.
shops?
Amen.
Open up and defy Cuomo and de Blasio. Follow the demonstrators. In this case, the demonstrators prove you can't lock them up. You can't lock them all up.
Curtis Silwa, running for mayor of New York City. I got to follow your campaign. I hope you're the nominee because you're going to make national news. And I think you got a shot. People got to be tired of this, Curtis. Curtis Ellis. They just have to be saying
they're sick of it.
These suburban soccer moms that don't like Trump's tweets. You got a decision to make. You got a family. You got to figure this out, and you got to figure it out by November 3rd. John Fredericks Radio Network.